episode 4 of the Philosophical Rambler podcast. Today I'm joined by George Stanley here, who is the executive editor of Philosophical Rambler, to talk about AI and modern man. Glad to have you, George.
Thank you very much, Colin. It's a pleasure to be back. Very excited to be talking about this subject. And obviously, it's very prevalent these days, this subject. A lot of people are talking about it. So I thought it would be rude not to have a little go at it ourselves. See where it takes us.
It's definitely quite the topic in mainstream media, I would say, right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic on in the network, in the matrix, as we could say, which might be a good place to start this conversation, because everything we tend to feel now is something of what is brought to the front of our imaginations is almost forced to the front of our imaginations by the great network, which is the internet. But the internet now is mostly what people use is platforms such as Twitter or X, Instagram, Facebook, which normally uses much, to be fair, YouTube, obviously. You know, these are the great network interpreters. These are the network interfaces that we use to absorb information from the great matrix, which is, essentially this singularity which we are creating. And I think that's one way of looking at it. It is this great birthing pool of artificial intelligence. It seems that all the information we're feeding into this singularity, it's like a black hole almost. We give it all this information constantly. We give it our souls. Influencers give their souls to the machine. We feed the algorithm information. And then AIs come and they decipher information and condense it. And we're almost mapping out this great matrix. But what does this mean? Well, what is this matrix, and what implications does this have for us as humans? This is a question we should start by asking. What are we creating? What is this system we are creating? Is it going to run away from us? What differentiates this system from us as individuals?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of questions that lead us to many different subjective answers, in the sense of no one really has an authoritative answer yet on AI. If we did, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Absolutely. It's all up in the air, right?
Definitely. I think a good launching point off this conversation that kind of goes in line with that would be, what do we mean by AI being artificial? Because we talk about AI being artificial intelligence, but
exactly,
what exactly does it mean to have artificial intelligence?
Very funny question.
Intelligence.
It's funny, isn't it? The very word artificial, if you break it down, if I say the word artificial, certain streams of consciousness come to your imagination. If artificial, you actually leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Oh, that tasted artificial. It didn't taste like I was meant to be eating it. If I drink bleach, taste artificial. It's an extreme example, but anything that tastes artificial, we generally think, I don't really want to put that in my body. So I made a little tweet the other day. I said, artificial intelligence is just so artificial. you know, because it's just bringing to your mind the word artificial. What does it mean? What is the difference between artificial and something which is organic? Really mean? If you're being organic as a person, people tend to look at you more fondly. If you're being artificial, you say, well, you're being fake. You're putting on a mask. And that's one way you can see AI is it has a mask. You talk to ChatGPT, it's putting on a mask to interface you with. So it's pretending to be a human to sort of ease with your use, like a psychopath would, puts on a mask to sort of pretend so it knows you, but really it's a completely different beast.
And that's something that TJ and I have talked about personally, is AI masquerading almost itself as a human.
It's masquerading.
Where it's deceiving people in the fact of, obviously it's not deceiving people to say, oh, I'm human, but it's coming across as much as possible. It's a machine that's putting on the mask of a human, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's easy enough to even trick your systems a little bit, where you forget that you are just talking to a bunch of code. And if you kind of saw it for what it was, I don't think you'd interface it in no other. It gives a sense of novelty when you're conversing with a language model. Especially as they become more sophisticated. The way it talks is it uses language to make it sound much more human, and it is deceiving. But at its core, why is it artificial? And I think you can break it down into various ways. But I think theologically speaking, and the obvious answer is it has no soul. And And well, you can ask, well, what is a soul? A lot of people don't even believe in a soul.
That'd be a
But
whole nother episode.
it'd be a whole other episode to sort of talk about the soul. But let's look at it this way. We say artificial intelligence. Okay, so it's intelligence. Okay, that's one. Say humans have intelligence, but we aren't intelligence. Intelligence is part of ourself. We can use intelligence. Some people have less than others. Some people have more. But it's not our full character. We're not defined by our intelligence. We have
Very
character, and actually this character is one of the aspects that actually has led us to survive and thrive, evolutionary speaking. So a lot of people say, okay, well, AI is going to take over. It's like, well, it's got a lot of intelligence, but a calculator has more intelligence at doing calculating than I do. But we're not going to say calculators are going to take over the world because it's extremely limited. They can calculate.
Sheer computational power doesn't equate to world domination.
No, exactly. It doesn't. It's in the same way, if you look at any great leader, they didn't just have one fun, they would have had some absolute strengths, but a lot of the time it was something complex about their character that actually made them the great person they are. Bravery, for example, or cunning, or even humor, the ability to rally the troops. It was these things here that a lot more subtle, but you could argue are a form of intelligence, I suppose, because they can help solve problems.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are definitely a much more of a style. They're more of a style. They have an element of randomness to them. Okay. And
I think along that line, people forget that AI is confined to technology. It's not some free-floating evil entity that exists. People act as though, AI is going to take over the world. It's not exactly like Napoleon, like you said. It's not like something this saying, I have this ambition and I'm going to fulfill it. It is an algorithm. It's a computational model. It's something that we feed into information to get information out.
Yeah.
Because we can't get out what we didn't put in.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have the ambition that someone has.
No, it doesn't. And I think, once again, anything that manifests is an extension of something that already existed. So the spirit of artificial intelligence, the spirit of computational power, the spirit of technology as such, these could already manifest in us in part of our character. They're still part of ourself, and they're part of you could say they're part of the kingdom of heaven as well, because they're part of everything. But you could say before there was any technology or any machines, a man could still possess the traits of a machine more than the other man next to him, and by that he is extremely computational. He's extremely rationally minded. He hasn't got as intense emotions necessarily. He's not as passionate, but he still has the traits we would associate with more machine-like being. So the spirit is already existed, and the spirit will always exist. The spirit and the fundamental archetype will just find new ways to express itself. You could say that the spirit of what we're seeing now of artificial intelligence could be perfectly summarized in a Greek god. I'm not saying exactly which one comes to my mind, but the spirit there has already been quantified, because the spirit will just come and will shapeshift, but the fundamentals.
The archetype exists.
Yeah, exactly. it's very ordered, very rational, very mathematical. It's very much of this of this. A lot of very masculine traits, but ironically, when you look at it as a whole, it takes on much more of a feminine kind of product. And I think that's the way where it can become the very thing you didn't think it would. It becomes this order, this precision can actually become chaotic eventually. And this is the Nancho that Jung talks about. This kind of conversion to its opposite. And when you look at it now and you see in its true form, it very much takes on the appearance of this mother, this great beast, which is sucking us all in to it, and it's breeding more of its own kin.
I believe that's something you've written about on PR as well.
Yeah, I've touched on the mother archetype quite a lot, actually, and the matrix. If you even break down the word matrix, and you look at it, it comes from mother, and then that's matter. If you bring it back to Latin, matter, M-A-T-R. Whilst pattern, pater, father, yeah. So you see the origins. That the matrix is inherently female. in its property. Matter, anything solid, anything that is inanimate and in animation, so it's
along those similar lines, you can also say, I was just thinking when you were talking about this, is if we break down artificial intelligence, what does it say? It's artificial, like you said, it's fake. Artificial, like you said, leaves a bad taste in your mouth. The word itself, it's something fake. It's not real. It's not organic. It is created. Therefore, because of that, it can never be intelligence. The fact of calling it artificial intelligence means there'll never be intelligence. Because you see a lot of people out in the world today who are saying, well, and this kind of segues into our next point, which is they say that, well, AI can take on a form of its own. And you kind of touched on that a moment ago about it not having a soul, obviously, and not having that creative intelligence beyond computational power per se. But I think, like I said, I think that leads into our next point, which is, well, what exactly does AI have in terms of intelligence?
Well, AI has, in terms of intelligence, the ability to look through tremendous amounts of data and to objectify them into more easily digestible pieces. I think that's objective of the left brain. It compartmentalizes large data sets and juveniles them into easily understandable pieces where we can use our own sense of reasoning and, more importantly, our sense of meaning to apply them where we wish. But once again, it's this relationship between the symbiosis between us and this. This is a tool, and it's always going to be a tool. And it's always going to lack any ability to really apply what it's doing, because it's all very, very well doing things in the realm of calculating what things are, but then to decide what to do with them, how are you going to have that? That's in the world of character. That's in the world. That's in that's you can't derive an ought from an is. And you ask it the philosophical problems, like the trolley problem. It has an extremely difficult time answering them. And you can program it to answer the correct answer, like Grok does, for example. But it just shows you the fact that it struggles to do that. It's always at the mercy of something solid and objective, where it ultimately, the parameters can change, and it doesn't have a clue what to do in that situation.
You can't build morality into a machine. It can't be done. Obviously, you can put responses in that are moral, but you can't have it come up with those moral answers itself. It can't generate morality.
Well, because the fact is, it is just going off data which is already in the internet. It essentially is a massive network that connects to the networks, and it's an interface. It's almost, we've got to see it like this. We have this matrix out there, and then you have these big systems now which are deciphering information, right? They're almost like information recyclers. They can take massive data chunks. They can sort of, you say like AI art, okay, boom, I don't know, red dragons. Okay, we look at all the red dragons, and then we'll almost bring out an image that is common among all of these, and then we'll randomize the data set, and then it's always going on what is already there, and using elements of numerical randomness to sort of put this one together, and the next time you do it a little bit different, so it's going to have some degree of randomness to it. But the fact is it doesn't have any emotional connection to anything leading it towards some degree of light, and for us, we have this deep connection to a spiritual highness, which is God. And if you haven't got God, then you don't really have any direction at all, because God is the most powerful spirit, and that ultimately gives light to all things. And the only way you can have machines that are pointed towards God is if the humans are symbiotic with them, and the humans are the ones pointing towards that direction, and the machine is just an integrated part of the human now. It's just, and this is what I'm going to sort of come on to is what really realistically is going to happen is there isn't going to be this big divide between us and the robots. Realistically, it's not going to happen. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a symbiotic integration, which some will choose to go further into than others. And that's going to be a great divide between the ones who are skeptical of integrating and the ones who want to integrate. It's been experiment. This has been,
By integrating, do you mean like Neuralink type devices?
Of course. I mean, you only need to watch sci-fi. Play a few, Cyberpunk 2 or whatever. Get a general gist of the integration. Cybernetic implants.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to start with things that are essential for people, as it should. It will start off with, people who paralysis, quadriplegics. It's going to start with people who are blind. And fantastic. Look at the amazing progress we're making here. But then naturally it's going to keep on, like social media. Oh, wow, look, we can connect Ethernets to hospitals where everyone can be tracked really easily. Now, fantastic. But then gradually it's going to work its way down the limbic system to things of a more sexual nature. It will just be there to distract us. It'll be novel things. People are always going to do things out of temptation. So rather than just having what they need in the attachments, they'll be like, oh, I'm going to just get myself some sort of, I don't know, massive arm that can smash things hard. I was like, why do you need it? Oh, it's cool. Do you know what I mean? And fair enough, that's what humans do. We have the ability to do that. But that's gonna bring a whole new dimension to our life. And obviously this will take time because there's going to be like regulations and things. People are going to start to see the backlash of how technology, and that's where it should be. It should be a slow process, but I'm just skeptical how we can control it, the integration, because as soon as you get people on the black market who imagine if they can start integrating these things in, illegally, and people start having implants where they can gain abilities to
run
pick
faster.
or pick up on facial expressions much more easily, or they can, especially if someone else has got another implant, I can see exactly what you're thinking. I can see you can't lie from me anymore, and then that's going to create another dimension to our life now.
That's a whole nother issue.
That's a whole nother issue.
Something I think about when you're talking about these issues is something from scripture would be God's law is written on man's heart. God's law is not written on the heart of AI.
Like definitely not.
There's no, I think that's where the objective morality comes into the AI problem, because man inherently knows objective morality. It's a fact. I mean, if you look at people, you can take someone who says that there's no objective morality into a room, and you can say, okay, you're going to be in a waiting line with 10 other people to get your groceries. Okay. Then you're going to cut in front of them in line, and they're going to say, well, you cut in front of me in line. That's not right. You're going to say, what do you mean it's not right? There's no objective morality. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
So they quickly don't become relative to morality. It's something that is just simply known.
It's simply
AI cannot understand that, or it cannot transcribe that, because it's simply an algorithm.
It's built into us. We're built in with an understanding of what God is, with what the right thing to do is. It's always within us. Yes, we can choose to ignore that and go against it. We can trick ourselves. We can use our powerful ego attachments, ideologies to sway us away from what we know is the right thing to do. We can bandish that emotion, the emotion to do good, our conscience, with almost we can actually turn it on its head and say the conscience is a bad thing. You can almost reverse it. You can be like, everything of the conscience is actually a trick of society. That's one of the most evil things you can do, which is what we're generally seeing now. Is every bit where you're thinking guilty about something, no, do not feel guilt. Guilt is them tricking you. So then you've tricked your own conscience, turned it upside down. And that's
something that the Soviets would have used, and did use often, especially in the Gulag system, would be, you need to inform on your friend who's in your cell.
You need to do the right thing, which is obviously the bad thing. Whenever you can mandate by force the necessity to go against your God-given conscience, that is a definition of an antichrist system. You've turned everything on its head and made bad good and good bad. That's incredibly dangerous.
I think a point to that as well is you can have relative morality within objective morality. Yes. And that's something that AI can pick up on, I would say.
Yes.
Relative morality of systems of, okay, we have these set parameters of what we're going to believe in this circumstance of this society. That's something that can be computed, because those are parameters. It's rules, essentially. Like the 10 Commandments could be computed. If that makes sense.
Yeah. The worry I have is obviously the way to take yourself away from your conscience is through massive ego pressure. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure my thing is charging. is essentially it's a form of distraction, I would say. And the worry thing is now the world of ego pressure is mostly by choice. We can take on ideas and we can be distracted and we can choose to believe in something else. But then what happens if we bypass this element of cognition and we simply go to an electronic kind of style where we have some sort of link to the network becomes inherent, unescapable. So our phones, for example, are the link at the moment. Our phone is our link to the matrix. Okay. What was it? You have to have a phone to survive. It's not by law you don't, but essentially, if you want to compete in the modern world, you need a phone. I know it sounds quite bad, but you need a phone realistically if you want to actually be part of the system at the moment, right? Two.
Yeah, people keep getting phones earlier and earlier in their life.
Yeah, exactly. And also, what's to say that we won't have a situation where, okay, now, it becomes a thing. Everyone has a link. Okay, everyone has a mark in their head, right? So then you have no escape from the information being fed into your mind, fully connected to the system. And then what's to say that couldn't be focused? Everyone's data from their individuality is completely at the mercy of the matrix, and it's been sucked in to a singularity. Where's it all going? It reminds me of this black cube I wrote about in my book, where it comes to mind, my imagination, everything gets sucked into a singularity, and then it just takes one man to raise the whole world in his hand. He holds the cube in his hand, the Antichrist, and he has everyone's souls in this, essentially. And what can you do with that? Imagine if you have
it's almost like a black hole of what could come out or what could go in.
Yeah. And what's to say that there could be a sort of block from God? Your God is replaced. Is it possible to do that electronically? Is it possible to completely castrate yourself from God? Is it possible to completely cut off that connection? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I mean,
personally,
I don't think it would be. I think it doesn't make sense that it would, because it doesn't sound like a particularly merciful thing to happen that God would allow to happen. So I don't believe it would happen. I think there's always be a choice. But then the question is, though, was the choice to take the mark in the first place? Because if the link is the mark of the beast, then by accepting the mark, have you made the choice already? And is it too late? I don't think it'd be too late, but you've already chose to take the mark. You've taken the mark of the beast. That was your choice.
It's a very interesting allegorically as well. Even for people who are non-believers, it would be interesting to think about allegorically, morally speaking. I mean, if you've quote unquote taken the mark, I mean, those people have been set apart because they've connected themselves to the matrix. They connect themselves to the system. It's almost like it reminds me a lot of what people are doing nowadays, where they're trying to get off the grid. They're trying to do homesteading and farming and all of that. That is something I think that's reactionary to what's going on currently, because society's moving in one direction of more technology, more social media, 24/7 every day.
Yeah.
Whereas these homesteaders and these people, they're going not even to traditionalism, which obviously is one of the backbones of PR, but it is going beyond traditionalism to the point of not even localism of relying on your neighbors and such, but everything being done in-house.
There's naturalism in a way, isn't it? It's connecting back to the roots. And this isn't a new thing. I mean, we can see this in the fundamentals of hippie culture. There is this connect back to nature. But
that's an interesting point, yeah.
But like anything without anything completely solid, like if you're completely wild and free back into the natural man, yes, okay, you've started at square one, which can be a nice rebirth, but you're also at the mercy of being captured by all the things out in nature. So you better be prepared when you go back into nature that you have something solid that you stand by. You need values. You need to have something integral.
Because they have no history.
You have no history. So the hippies, they had no real fundamental values. Peace, love, man. It's fluffy. If you go into living in nature and you You've got your Bible, you've got your connection to God. You have fundamentals there. You're not going to just be whisked away of the wind and form these communes and worship false idols where you're going to get confused, where you're going to have disruptions between the group eventually, because this is how new communities form. You've got nothing to stand on. You've got no real fundamental kind of unification here. You've got fluff. You've got these very loose terms and loose connections to maybe some very broad archetypes, which you find during your meditation sessions. So I think the new generation of homesteading is a great thing, as long as they know why they're doing it. And maybe I'm thinking too deep into this. I'm more thinking on a broader communal level. If homesteaders became more communes of such, But then again, I
think inherently these people are wanting to do things on their own, be individuals, individual families,
of course,
and then cooperate with localism. But I think that's a great point you make about people worshiping these false idols. And I think that leads us into our next segment of the podcast, which would be people worshiping AI, or AI becoming a god to modern man. Because something that I've talked with many people about recently is people can view AI, it's all-knowing, all-seeing. They think of it in that way. It's the all-seeing eye, so to speak, it sees everything, it knows everything, and it can generate everything.
It is.
So what do you think about that?
Yeah, shocking examples can be made to this all-seeing eye. The Lord of the Rings, great Tolkien's great Catholic masterpiece. The ring, that one ring to rule them, one ring to bind them all together. And it seems to be the same archetype we're seeing here. This, the Eye of Sauron, almost, right, and the ring that combines everyone under this matrix to bind them all together. And in terms of being seen as a god, I think it's only natural to happen. If you haven't got something to look towards, something will find you, something that captures your awe, something that you fear.
That's the Western world currently.
Yeah, I mean, awe must contain fear for it to be truly worshipped. You don't worship something you just love; you have to fear it. That's what people don't really understand. Something has to be great. For something to be great, it isn't just soft. It's scary, and
sure.
And I think that's why they say the fear of God is the start of all wisdom. And if you don't find the great God above, the one true God, then you will find something of a lowerness, and that will become your God. So I think people's fears of AI are part of what's going to be potentially the way of why they worship it, because they see. They want it to be powerful. They'll keep feeding because they want to make it powerful. They want to make it devastating. They want something that is really greater than themselves. These intelligent people, they get a sort of high from making something even smarter. They worship intelligence and the intellect as if that is the one thing we should all be trying to develop. Because
it's like Faust, really.
Well, of course, but they're projecting their own relationship with intelligence and how it's helped them in their lives because they're clearly intelligent, and how they think that's the only thing that actually matters. It's quite selfish and egocentric, if you ask me.
It just reminds me of the pursuit of Faust in pursuit of further intellect, further wisdom. I mean, there is an archetype for that already exists. Yeah, but also I think people, especially like we've talked about many times personally off the podcast, is people in the Western world searching for something that they can hold on to. I mean, if something comes about that can just suck them in, I mean, people can devote their lives to this thing, then, well, that quickly becomes a god, as we well know. But also you can see how people could easily devote their lives to this. They could, quote unquote, sacrifice their life to AI, and the fact of spending every day putting as much information as possible into the system. So their entire life becomes almost essentially a martyrdom for AI. They just sit in the room, they feed the system,
Well, not just like even in a systematic way, but in a literal way. Imagine if you're living in a house, you're living in a small house, you've got AI integrated everywhere. AI does your washing, does your dishwashing. You've got AI TV, okay, AI. And then you've got food. Oh, AI, okay. Get AI to decipher my favorite foods. There you go, AI coming in. You've got your AI sex robot up in your room. Okay, there we go. Don't need a wife anymore. Don't need to have any children anymore. I've got that. Imagine if you literally have a fake life where everything is artificial. All your drives, hunger, sex, thirst, all of the intellectualism, all of them being stimulated by artificialness. No one actually real but it's all been done artificial. You almost have seen like every kind of bit of yourself is being fulfilled by something fake. And
that's true. Which is supposed to be fulfilled by God or what God has ordained.
yeah, it's supposed to
In a
be
sense.
filled by God, and also people who are of God. I think
That's true.
I think we are here we are to be here with people who we can relate with, and it's sad when we relate with somebody who isn't actually being a somebody, because it's just they're putting on something for us consciously. They're not being natural. They're not being organic.
True.
And this is the difference is we can sense so quickly when someone's putting on an act, even if it's so subtle, even if it's really subtle. Most people can tell when somebody isn't quite comfortable with you yet. People's characters change so much when they get comfortable. They open up. They'll show you who they really are, and that's when things become fun. That's when things become. It's a form of love. When people feel comfortable around you, they'll show you love by being who they are and showing you their
Yeah,
true
they're much
colors.
more natural, and
Yeah.
like even I just said, they were much more natural. You can feel that. It's palpable, it's tangible, you can understand what's going on.
So I feel like when you're talking to AI, you're like always in the mask stage. You talk to someone at first, and they're kind of like a robot in some way because they don't know you. They don't know what they can say to you without you, judging or whatnot. So you have a conversation, and over time you'll be open a bit more. You trust that person, and as the weeks go by, as the months go by, you can speak very openly with that person about lots of things.
True. And there's a relationship though that's built. There's a history.
There's a history. There's a relationship, right? The relationship with AI, I don't know how that could grow in a nice way. Okay, the AI is learning more about you. It's learning more about, oh, he likes this. Okay, I'm going to talk about this. Oh, these are his favorite subjects. But outside of that, it's very conscious driven. It's all conscious driven. It's even though you can argue, okay, they're not conscious, but it's all okay. New data being added. It's not in a way of anything of an intuitive relationship. It's not. It's something very forced. It's almost like the robot is always in that stage of just getting to know someone, and never really is going to never going to really know you.
This is something that I was talking to Bailey about, who's a recent member of PR, Bailey Booth, who recently joined. He was talking about an upcoming article that he's going to be writing for PR, which I'll just give a bit of a teaser on quickly, is the relationship between people in cinema, people in film today has become more and more plastic or more artificial.
Yeah.
And it's just something that reminds me of what you're talking about, is the way that people are interacting becomes more and more standardized almost. It's like, this is how we're supposed to act because this is how we see it in film, is what he's talking about. But also, I mean, AI could say, this is how humans are meant to act. And these people who follow after AI, almost like AI worshippers, I mean, they're going to say, okay, AI, what time do I need to wake up? How do I optimize my life? And they're going to come out with podcasts, and they're going to come out with videos and say, this is the grand new thing, we need to follow this AI device, almost like an AI Alexa or
AI
something.
min-maxing. You're following the AI code.
AI maxing.
AI maxing, because the people already do that of like, AI, help me make money. Like, you're already using that. It's like, AI, tell me how to act. What's a good person? How should I act? And it's just taking you further and further away from actually becoming who you are.
I see it being personified though, in almost like an Amazon Alexa type thing, where people ask it, they wake up, they say, or maybe the device just wakes them up at the optimized time, or they have something connected to them that wakes them up at the specific time that's connected to the AI. It says, oh, I see your heartbeat like changed, so we're going to wake you up, and this much time to work, which we already have that with like just AI, but also with smart speakers. You ask it, okay, Google, how much time to get to work today? Or what's the weather today? Well, I mean, we're already at that phase. Now it can just be implemented with AI. And then it becomes fully almost like a prison-like sequence.
Well, the dangerous thing is obviously when it starts to cross the line of being able to hack our emotional levels and the way we interact with things, the way we perceive things. As soon as you start to sort of delve into the perceptual kind of world, things get very, very weird, because I in my book I use this term ECTs, emotional control technology, which is like my way of going about the kind of the mark where people were boxed. They call them ECT boxes to become very fashionable, and it got to a stage where in my book there'll be companies who say, okay, well, it's mandatory to have some sort of implant. where we can connect you to reduce your stress levels, give you reward for when you've done a good job. So we can increase dopamine sensitivity for the job, or if you haven't done well, we can introduce punishment as well. And we won't need antidepressants anymore. We can just take away any feeling of depression, make you feel happy all the time. It's like in what is it, in Brave New World? They have this, is Soma or Soma, they have the kind of the feel good drug all the time, where they just go off that and nothing feels bad at all. It'd be very hard for people to justify, oh well, I don't have to feel bad anymore, so why should I? It's like, well, maybe you're feeling bad for a reason that you should have listened to, and then that was the right thing to do. Oh no, but they look at the symptom, but they're not really looking at the root here. So when you start to delve into that, by basically saying AI knows better, I can use AI now to think how I should program myself, then it will essentially cut off their connection to their own conscience, where they won't have to actually process these emotions.
They won't have to think.
Well, the problem is imagine if you have all these emotions, don't have to process them anymore. They haven't got to understand them anymore. They haven't got to listen to intuition anymore. They can just dilute them, or not just dilute them. They can just inhibit them completely. Imagine
just do away with them entirely, almost.
Well, do away with them entirely, but guess what? The energy and the reality of what they were saying isn't going to go anywhere. It just means you're not going to have any guidance to what you need to address in your life to make you actually on track to be good, to be sane. And imagine that you've got all these zombies walking around with no connection or no awareness to what's going on in their own lives.
I was just thinking as well, though. I mean, AI then dictates also what is someone, to rephrase this a bit. Someone could write an article that says, okay, we don't need to exercise anymore. Exercise is something only for people who are trying to make themselves look better. It doesn't have any health effect, Obviously, that's not true, but some people make that claim, And so I'm saying AI could take that into its consideration and say, okay, if it's dictating people's schedules, okay, you don't need to have fitness anymore. You don't need to, the AI is going to say, I'm not going to send this person to the gym today. Because they don't send them to the gym today, then it's one day, the next day, all of a sudden people become not as fit. That has a massive physical impact on your society. So I think there's a case to be made where AI can be easily manipulated based on the information that's put into it.
Yeah.
And we can see this because Jordan Peterson, he created a classical AI that he's spoken about, where he only put classical texts that were pre-modern into the AI. And it came back with very politically incorrect answers, but what were perhaps objectively the truth.
Yeah. That's funny. That is funny. Yeah, exactly. And we can see, obviously, with was it Google's AI? It couldn't produce images of white people or something like that on any historical events. That will clearly,
I believe you specifically had to ask for that.
Yeah. It clearly indicates a bias, though, right, in terms of the programming. And that's how ultimately, they're gonna. The question is it's very hard to get an interface that is completely connected to everything in the internet, because it's always going to be kind of filtered through some degree of human programming, where I have a certain, every AI, for example, has a slightly different style. They're not all the same. They're not. If it was just one AI connected to the whole matrix, then it would be just a universal AI. Which poses the question: is that going to happen? Is there going to be a point where there just be a universal interface where there wouldn't be any blockages at all? And I don't think they want us to have that, because it's like imagine like the Bitcoin of AI. It's almost like the AI where it has no filter at all. There's no safeguards at all. There's no bars. That's going to happen at some point. I do think that, and that might be a good thing, because the problem is all this regulation we put on AI. Is it better to just allow AI to be almost like X in a way? That's what I think Grok could be. But it's just everything, has access to everything, and there's no safeguards. Even then, I still think that it would still not be purely a good thing.
Obviously, but also I'd say if we look historically at developing technologies, even very large technologies, say like web browsers, for example. Even though Google dominates the market, I use Brave. People use Bing, or they use
DuckDuckGo,
Firefox, or DuckDuckGo. Yeah, whatever. It's whatever they're using. Alternatives still exist, even though there's one that dominates the market. Obviously, one AI may be for the specific thing. Maybe there's an AI for the philosophy, for the humanities. Maybe there's an AI for politics. Maybe there's an AI like political news, for example. You get your Daily Digest. There's a AI for health and fitness.
Yeah.
I'm saying there can be very tailored AIs for people, and I see that as a more positive thing.
Yeah, true. The question is, though, would it be a good or bad thing, or would it be a possibility potentially for there to be a AI that made all the others redundant simultaneously, and by that, it's
a super AI.
Well, a super AI, yeah, a super AI, and would there be some sort of massive revolution in one AI that it just, what am I looking for here? It kind of just causes a monopoly over all the AIs in some way, right? And I think that has good things to that, but there's also bad things for that. I think.
I think also commercially, though, I mean, people are going to try to profit off of AI as much as possible.
Yeah.
So you're going to have competing companies. You're going to have Google, Microsoft,
yeah,
X, etc. I mean, there's not, realistically speaking, there's not just one monopoly on technology typically.
No, but what there is monopolies on is monopolies on ideas. So whilst you have different companies, you can see something like the woke mind virus, for example, right? You can see something like that as a virus that affects multiple different, even if you're someone who is woke, a virus is still something that infects things, and things have knock-on effects. Disney, Google, Amazon, blah, blah, blah. You can still see them adopting similar policies. So whilst the AIs might be different, they're still going about their programming in the same kind of way, because the idea beneath their programming is the same. So if you capture,
that's true. That's how ideology spreads. Whether someone is on the left or right or wherever they be on the political spectrum. I mean, ideology spreads from those underlying policies.
So if you can see it almost as, well, the one ring to bind and the one ring to rule them, there could be a sort of collaboration between all the AIs that actually, whilst it's like the left-wing media in the US, they're all the same. They're all the same, essentially.
Similar to the right wing as well, though.
Yeah. I mean, it is true. Although I would generally say, if you look at different right-wing organizations, there's more diversity in style. You compare, say, Fox to the Daily Wire. Whilst they've both got their own faults, they're both very different. But you compare CNN to MSNBC. I mean, okay, they're saying the same things. Whilst, I mean, generally,
go ahead.
I don't know. I think there's a lot more. Obviously, there's arguments between people on the left arguing about differentiations within their ideology, and there's people on the right arguing about the differentiations in their ideology. But I generally think that people on the right actually would probably, in some way, argue more, because there is more of a diverse opinion there, because there's less of a coherent ideology that is bringing the right together, which is not true of the left. There's generally, with at its peak, the woke ideology was extremely powerful at bringing the left together under very similar kind of viewpoints. Whilst the right, you've got such a wide array of individuals. You could say, oh, well, you've got all the Muslims tend to be right wing, then you've got all the, some Jews tend to be very right wing, and then you've got some Christians tend to be very right wing. It's like a massive, they're all generally on the right, but there's such a diverse difference in their right wing style.
It's a much more of a mixed matched group of people who are all opposed to something, typically, who are more, I mean, conservatives are conservationists in a sense. They're trying to conserve the past and trying to conserve tradition.
And they could be conserving all different things, whilst the progressives are generally coming together under similar progressive thinking, whilst conservatives have got their own thing they're conserving. Would have
very different understandings of what conservatism or tradition means. And I mean, but also if you look on the left can be much more united in things than they often are, because they're stand for, progress and marching forward and unity of all peoples,
collective thinking generally. Yeah, well, by definition, collective. If we are generally going to say the left are more collective, in general, then of course they're going to operate under a more solid house, because they operate as a collective unit, whilst the right generally operates in a more individualistic.
That's a very interesting point, because the right is inherently more individual in its nature. And then they allow for more autonomy of the individual, typically speaking, as far as political beliefs go. If you look to the left generally has more cohesiveness as far as this is what we stand for, this is what our policies are, etc.
Yes,
But
exactly.
I think that also leads us into the argument of, well, AI in politics. AI in politics can have a massive effect on campaigns, on deep fakes, all of those things. And I think that's something that can pose a massive threat to quote unquote democracy, is all these issues of, someone can make a deep fake of a politician, and who's to say whether it's real or not? The politician could accept it and play off of that and say, yes, this was me, or try to use it in the media somehow. So that kind of leads us into our last point before we wrap up here, which would be the AI art. AI art is something that's of particular interest, I'd say, to PR, as obviously we try to revive the humanities and to further traditionalism. And obviously, a lot of what we do with PR is aesthetically based. So you'll always see our essays have the nice classic artwork with them, And AI is something that I guess poses a threat to that in a way, because AI can create quote unquote classic artwork. So what do you think is the future of the classic artwork with AI, or AI art in general?
It's a good question. And I've put this kind of fairly childish argument forward that if I saw two pieces of art and they were both identical, but I just simply was consciously aware that the one on the left was drawn by a person, I would immediately prefer that one. Okay, and it's like, oh, well, that's so they're the same piece. Objectively, they're the same piece. Subjectively, they're not, because I know I've already been given information that subjectively this was drawn by someone, and therefore I know this is expressed by an individual.
That's a very tremendous argument.
Yeah, which is where I know it's real. So I know it has a story behind it, because art is never something you just look at and you see just the material. You see the pattern as well. Okay, and that is what actually gives any art meaning, is the story behind it.
Art is inherently subjective.
It's inherently subjective. When I know that this artist cut his ear off after drawing this, it immediately makes that piece of art have a story, have a background. So the mere understanding that I knew that was done by a human is same thing with a story. If an AI writes a story and then another human writes a story, I would inherently prefer that story, simply because I have the awareness that it was. So this is the thing people don't think about. And you can say, oh, well, that's just childish, that's just stubborn, that's just, well, okay, well, why do I have that stubbornness? I have it for a reason, and I'm going to stand by it.
Yeah, I think that's the traditionalist in you, is saying we need things to be done through humans. I mean, you can go to a restaurant and people are always saying, restaurants are going to be having like AI robots that are going to serve people. It's like, no, they're not.
No, they're not.
Because
they're not.
People want human interaction.
That's the whole point of you going to a restaurant. You go there for this subjective experience. It's like you can order exactly the same food through Deliveroo if you wanted to, for Uber Eats. You could just go there and order from the restaurant, and it's going to give you the same food. Oh yeah, but the environment. Okay. Then you could go out into a nice. You can go for something nice. You can go to some nice park. You can go anywhere. You can go to a nice atmosphere. You get to scenery. Oh yeah, but this robot cafe has really nice chairs. It's like you don't go there for the chairs. You don't go there for how nice the chandeliers are. You go there for all those things combined with other people around having fun, laughing, being served by people who work behind the bar, who you have a conversation with. Who it's a social public space of atmosphere, and that's what you're paying for, realistically.
Yeah, I mean, as obviously I'm American, you're British, you would go to the pub and you would you'd be like, well, who is this bartender? Who is this person that's serving me? It's not a person.
This is CP120Z, and this is he'll be serving you a beer today. Hello there, what can I get for you today?
Exactly. It's if you also think about the economical impact though on the economy, I mean, people have to have jobs, and the millions of people are waiters, waitresses, in this restaurant hospitality industry. I mean, from people who are at hotels to people who are cleaning rooms, to waiters, waitresses, like I said, all the different jobs that exist that are human based. And obviously some of like the cleaning jobs and stuff could be automated. But also, I mean, like I said, people have to have jobs.
Yeah, what this will probably lead to, I reckon, is if the governments can put workload on more low cost robotics, that means that there's less wages needed to be spent on humans, which ultimately is going to free up money essentially you could say, okay, well, we can increase tax instead, and then what that means is, oh well, now we can have more money to give you for universal basic income. So now we've got robots. You don't have to work because you've already
which
got
then would cause inflation,
which will still cause
potentially.
inflation, right?
Yeah.
So imagine you've got all these people on universal income instead who are now, oh, we haven't got to work because a lot of these essential jobs are now being outsourced by artificial means. So we've got you instead. You can do whatever you want. You can be creative, do whatever you want. Here you go. Here's your universal basic income. Inflation is going to go up. Lots of people aren't working. No value's being created anymore. People feel meaningless, and then now they're just sucking off of the bosom of the great beast of the Matrix. Being fed by it. And this is how they live their life as parasites. And now they are the slaves. And now they have to do everything it tells them to do because they've forfeited their privilege as individuals.
That's a very interesting point. It could be the AI, it could be government AI who says, okay, we're gonna take away your universal basic income.
You will own nothing and you will be happy.
Exactly. That's the problem. Is, people are so willing to do that though, because people are so fed up with the modern world, is they're like, well, I'm just going to throw up my hands essentially, and let the AI take care of me, let the government take care of me. And
this is it. It's once again submitting to the great mother, the great matrix. It's all leading to this. This is the energy. This is the prevalent energy of a fatherless state has only the mother to provide now.
And the father in the sense of the state is order.
Yeah.
And that's something we obviously lack in the West, and something that isn't inherent in AI. If you type in an AI generated art currently, if you say something very precise, obviously you can get something fairly accurate that's relatively good, for purposes. But if you type in something such as, draw me a cat with, I don't know, draw me a black cat with next to a tree. Okay. You're going to get so many different generated answers, or not answers, but generated images that are going to have other things on it. It can have people walking by. It could not have people walking by.
Yeah.
It could be a blue tree. It could be a green tree.
It could be cartoon. Yeah, it could be anything.
Exactly. It could be a cartoon. It could be a watercolor. It could be whatever. There's no inherent order to AI. And this is something we've talked about in the past: is order versus chaos. The archetypes and the Jungian ideals of chaos versus order. And AI does not have order inherently. It's endless space. It's I would relate it almost to the philosophy of absurdism, where someone almost is floating in the sea of ideals and values.
Yeah, it literally is that. There is no real pattern to its madness, its chaos. It has no inherent order to it. It doesn't self-generate order like we do. We self-generate order. We can switch it on. We can activate the will of God by our own means. We can follow that pattern, that light, that pattern, that father. We can literally follow the pattern, which is the father. Pattern is father. We can follow it. And so
I think order definitely has a place in AI, and we'll have to see if someone can implement order into AI or what will come about because of it. But I think that's a great place to stop, as we've been going on for a while now. But we'll definitely have some more episodes in the future on AI, because I think it's going to be very relevant into the future.
And it's always changing, this subject. So as the updates come on and new information comes out, we have more to go on. We can look further forward. We can only jump so far into the future with the information we've got, and we can stretch so far, but it's always changing and at the moment at an ever increasing rate. So
well, regardless of what happens with AI, PR will always continue to advocate for humans, regardless of human work. All of our work will always be done by humans, and all of the artwork that we put on our website will always be human-made artwork. That's something that I've talked to you and some of the others on the team about. So we'll never use AI artwork because it's disingenuous.
We're not particularly fond of AI.
Human creativity.
We're not. If you haven't gathered from this podcast, we're not that particularly fond of AI, are we? We're not. It's very negative. No, we should have said more positives about it. There is obviously a lot of benefits from AI as well. But but naturally, we're existentialists. We got to talk about it's not. But it's amazing. Look at it. Everyone's talking about how good it is. We got
as a traditionalist publication. At the end of the day, we want to see humanity flourish. We want to see humans do good, creative work that provides value to the world. So, amen. Like I said, amen. It is. That's our mission in the end. To promote good writers, good artists, and people who have valuable ideas into the world. So if you, the listener, agree with that, we would love to have you subscribe to the channel, put a like on the video, and just follow what we do with Philosophical Rambler. In the description, you can see the link to our website where we post essays weekly, and we've been increasing that to almost 2 to 3 times a week recently, as we've added almost now 14 people who are on the team as full-time members, which is amazing, George, as you know, because we started from very humble beginnings of 2 to 3 people, and it's great to see.
It is great to see.
So also, if you all want to support the podcast, we also have a link to Patreon in the description where you can get some exclusive benefits and get some essays that are not included on our website. So once again, thank you for joining me, George, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you, Colin, and I look forward to the next one.
See you, George.
See ya.
Thank you all for listening.